funny how the billionaires, make millions so easy. Anyway, working on that. Okay, so let's talk about the strategies for investing in a B area. There's also potential for appreciation, and that's a good thing because, again, it's a desirable area for the middle class. Okay, for the middle class. Potential for cash flow too, and this is what makes investing in B areas doubly good. You can have the hope for appreciation, but you also get the cash flow in the meantime. So while it's very desirable for the middle class, I think these B properties are also highly desirable for us as investors. Longer term tenants, because tend to be people with stable jobs. They tend to be people who want their kids to stay in the school system that they're in and not have to move around a lot. If you rent to a family who has pets, that's wonderful because they, not everybody will take pets. And if you do, you can have a pet deposit and a pet policy for that property. But, families with pets, they're going to stay longer. So this is a nice thing. You probably won't have a really high turnover, hopefully, in a B neighborhood. And here's the key. When you are buying for the middle class, you are talking about most of America, right? It's like, 80, I don't know the statistics, so I'm just throwing it out there, but I'm going to guess that it's about 80% of the population is middle class. So you've got more people in this category who can afford what you have, whether they're renters or buyers. So in other words, if you were buying that lovely house in the A neighborhood, the rent on that, to make it cash flow, let's say, again, it's a $300,000 house. Let's just assume that somewhere in middle America. And I like the 1% rule, which means the rent would come in at 1% of the price of the home. So I would want to see $3,000 on that fancy A property to get the kind of cash flow I like. Well, how many people in in middle America are going to pay $3,000 for rent? They're just not. They're going to buy. If you can afford $3,000 for rent, you probably can afford to buy the place. So it's just, there's less people out there that can afford to rent in the A neighborhoods. Whereas in B, let's say this house is $100,000 somewhere in middle America, and that's totally doable. And you want $1,000 rent, that 1% rule, there's a lot of people that can afford $1,000 rent for a 3-bedroom home. So you're really tapping into the highest population group in the U.S. that can afford what you have to offer. So I really love the B area. And again, that's I'm talking for rent, for buy and hold. But let's say you want to sell it. Let's say that over time, this property is now worth $120,000 and you want to sell it. Well, there's a very good chance that a buyer in that neighborhood can qualify for that house, even if interest rates go up. So right now, if somebody tried to buy this rather than rent it from you, they certainly could afford it because it would be much cheaper with today's interest rates for someone to buy rather than rent. But unfortunately, a lot of people have bad credit now from all the foreclosures and short sales that happened that they're not going to be able to buy. So you have a pool of renters that aren't going to be able to qualify for loans, or just maybe are tired of being homeowners, going to be renters. But eventually they will come back in the market and they will eventually want to buy again. And when they do, and when the loans come back, these prices are going to go up on these homes. So, again, what would a $120,000 house be at a 6% interest rate? It would still almost be cheaper to own than rent, or very close. So it's still this price range and this B area. This is the way to go. And tenants feel safe because I said tends to be low crime. So again, it's a similar type thing. You could buy the worst house in this good neighborhood, fix it up, and sell it on the retail market for a profit. And by the way, I really don't recommend doing this from a distance. So I don't recommend you saying, hey, I live in California, I'm going to buy a house in Texas, I am going to buy the worst property in a B neighborhood and fix it up. Well, now you got to count for all the travel and the staying in hotels and the time it takes to find your teams and all that. So I don't recommend that unless you have an excellent team in place that you can trust to do that for you. But, if you're living there and you do this and you want a quick sale, this is a way to do it. Because here's the thing, as I mentioned before, not every B tenant or buyer is going to have the money to fix up a house. They might be able to get an FHA loan and put 3.5% down, but they're not going to have maybe the 10 grand or the 20 grand to fix that place up. But if you do and sell it to them, they're willing to pay a little more because they don't have the cash, but they'll have the 3.5% down. And 3.5% of 100 or 120 or 140 is not that different, you see. So if you can come up with the money, if you can borrow the money, even if it's hard money, fix up the house, make it real nice for a real retail buyer, there is profit to be made there. Now, the strategy number 2, and this is my favorite, is to do that, to buy a nice house, get it all fixed up nice, whether you have someone else do it or you do it yourself or you have a team that does it for you. Of course, we have all those resources for you at Real Wealth Network. But you would buy this. And now, as I said before, it's cheaper to own than to rent right now in many parts of the country. So that goes to whether you live in the house or are the landlord of the house. As a landlord, you could buy this house as a rental, still get very low interest rates, have very, very low monthly payments, and rent it for maybe twice what your mortgage is. So you're getting all this extra cash flow every month. You can accelerate the payoff of your loan by using all that cash flow to pay off the loan faster. We've got lots of, we're happy to help you at Real Wealth Network with a strategy for how quickly you can pay off a house based on this strategy. But, if you basically, it's the idea is if you have $100,000 loan, and you put $5,000 extra toward that loan every year, in addition to what your payments already are, you could pay it off in 12 years. So you could pay off your 30-year loan in 12 years if you put an extra $5,000 a month down. Now, where are you going to get that $5,000? Not a month. I'm sorry, a year. Where are you going to get that $5,000? Well, from the cash flow potentially, because like I said, the cash flow is still really great. So that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to buy this house, $100,000 house, put $20,000 down, use all the cash flow to pay off the $80,000 loan, and now you own it free and clear. That's a great strategy.